The human body is a fascinating thing, but this man's family was in for a shock when they realized that his soul and physical body were at odds with one another. In this video, we're looking at the man who lived inside a dead body for 83 days while his family watched. It all started with the 1999 Tokemura nuclear power plant explosion in Japan. Known as the worst nuclear incident that has ever occurred in the country, the explosion led to the release of massive amounts of radiation, and Hisashi was one of the 3 employees at the site whose life was changed forever after the accident on 30th September. So, what happened that led to the destruction on such a mass scale? To put it simply, the staff at the nuclear plant were working on a process where they dissolved and mixed enriched uranium oxide with nitric acid to produce uranyl nitrate, a product that the plant needed by the 28th of the month. However, because the entire situation was happening under a time crunch, the staff started taking some shortcuts to meet the deadline. Sadly, these shortcuts led to a lot of safety procedures being ignored in the process. So the workers at the plant started handling the radioactive material without any protective measures. And while this worked out for the experienced staff, the inexperienced workers were bound to make a mistake. And that's exactly what happened. Hisashi was a nuclear technician at the plant, and on the fateful evening of the explosion, he was helping another colleague pour liters of uranium into a huge metal vat, while a third technician was sitting at a desk a few meters away. Now what happened was that both Hisashi and his colleague were inexperienced and ended up adding 7 times the regular amount of one of the compounds that led to a rise in gamma radiation in response to a chain reaction happening inside the metal vat. The alarms were ringing, and the 3 technicians on the site were trying to stop the chaos, but it was too late. With a flash of blue light, the 3 men were hit with deadly levels of radiation, with Hisashi receiving 17 sievert or SV because of how close he was to where the reaction took place. The 3 men were immediately brought to the hospital, and Hisashi seemed to be in the worst condition of them all. He was constantly falling in and out of consciousness, his entire body was covered with radiation burns, and he was throwing up all over the place. If that wasn't enough, he would also bleed from his eyes from time to time, making the whole thing unbearable to watch for his family. The doctor soon declared that the man had absorbed the highest levels of radiation any human being had ever been exposed to, so it was a miracle that he was still alive. Well, sort of. The man was immediately placed in the ICU, and his white blood cells had to be replenished in order for his body to continue the healing process and strengthen his immune system. All of his internal organs were damaged, and if he hadn't been rushed to the hospital immediately, there's no doubt that the man would have died very soon. Hisashi was monitored 24/7 and received multiple skin grafts and blood transfusions along with stem cell therapy to help him recover. His sister happily donated the stem cells along with the rest of the family who watched Hisashi struggle every single day. Because he was still alive after all of this, the doctors had the hope that he would actually make it. But a week into the treatments, Hisashi told the doctors that he just couldn't take it anymore. He was being put in medically induced comas and was on painkillers round the clock, but even that wasn't enough to end his suffering. So it was no surprise that the man finally expressed his wish to give up and stop trying to live inside a body that was as good as dead. "I'm not a guinea pig," said the man. 59 days after being hospitalized, it was as if Hisashi had just decided to give up. He suffered 3 heart attacks in a single hour, and at the request of his family, the doctors resuscitated him every time. But all of that was for nothing because his heart and brain were already damaged beyond repair at that point. So yes, while his heart was still beating, Hiyashi's soul just wasn't there anymore. So after weeks of being tested on, poked, and probed, the man died on 21st December 1999, putting an end to his suffering once and for all. That's a wrap for the man who lived inside a dead body for 83 days and his family watched. Do you think it was okay for the doctors to have kept Hisashi alive through medical interventions for so long? See you next time with something new, and until then, goodbye.